I've never climbed Mount Everest, and I don't really desire to climb Mount Everest. I don't think I ever will climb Mount Everest or attempt to. Reading, on the other hand, for some guys, probably feels like attempting to climb Mount Everest. It's just something that they don't want to do. In fact, the more and more guys that I talk to, it seems that they would rather smash their thumb with a hammer than attempt to read a book. However, brothers, friends, dads, you need to read to become a better dad. It's just vital to your growth as a dad. First and foremost, obviously the Bible, but secondly, good books. Today we're going to explore a book. Maybe it's good, maybe it's bad, but we'll find out. Hey guys, welcome back to another episode. Today's episode is exploring a book, actually. And I'll tell you this book in just a minute. But before you click away or click away on listening, I hope you'll listen to this. Guys, as you just saw in the introduction, reading is challenging. I get that. Some of you probably feel stupid reading. Maybe it brings up trauma from your early days in class, or I don't know what it does. But for some reason, there are many guys that I talk to that hate reading. Part of the reason I'm doing these episodes here is to give you an update on some of the books that are out there that can be helpful to you as a dad. And if you don't read at the end of the day, well, at least you can listen to this episode, these specific episodes on books, exploring these books that could help you. So here's today's book that we're going to explore. I hope you'll stay in and tune in to listen to it because, again, you need to be reading to learn and grow as a father. I've grown just by this book. So here's the book for today. Boys Adrift, the 5 factors driving the growing epidemic of unmotivated boys and underachieving young men. Now, you don't have to understand all those words. Again, that's probably one of the things in which why men and dads hate to read. But if you don't read, your kids are going to have a hard time reading. So this is a book. I'm going to give you some of the information, kind of like the last time we go through basically 5 things. I'm going to change my order. I'm going to change the name a little bit as I think through these things over time. So here's my order today. The big picture, first impressions, going deeper, the best quotes, and you're going to have to stay to the end to find the golden chapter. Or I guess you could skip ahead if you have that. But those are the 5 things that we're going to be looking at. And if you're thinking, I don't really care for that, just stay here because there may be a dad that you talk to that needs the information in this book. So learn how to read, to study, not just for yourself, but for the sake of others. So you may think that topic has nothing to do with me. It's not, what do you call it? Not appropriate. I don't know the word I'm looking for. It doesn't apply to my life, to my children. You might be surprised at the people that you run into that it does apply to. So quick note as we jump into this. Again, it's not a scholarly review. This isn't even like a major book review or anything like that. It's just an exploration, really, is what it is. An exploration. I've read this book. I'm going to give you kind of those 5 things again. The big picture. What is the book about? First impressions. My impressions is kind of just judging a book by its cover. Going deeper, we'll just lightly touch into some of the chapters. Then we'll look into the quotes. Those are the best quotes, and then the golden chapter. All right, so here we go. Let me give you the big picture here. I'll read the back first. Something is happening. Let me read it. Try to read it with emphasis. How about that, huh? Something is happening to boys today. From kindergarten to college, American boys are, on average, less resilient and less ambitious than they were a mere 20 years ago. The gender gap in academic achievement has widened dramatically. While Emily is working hard at school and doing well, her brother Justin is goofing off. He's more concerned about getting to the next level in his video game than about finishing his homework. In Boys Adrift, Dr. Leonard Sax delves into the scientific literature and draws on more than 25 years of clinical experience to explain why boys and young men are failing in school and disengaged at home. Sax identifies 5 key factors: current teaching methods, ADHD medications, the devaluation of masculinity, video games, environmental toxins. I'm going to talk about those here and again. He also presents practical solutions, sharing strategies that educators have found effective in re-engaging these boys at school, as well as concrete guidance for parents about everything from selecting a school to choosing a snack. A powerful call to action. Boys Adrift is a must-read for anyone interested in finding a brighter future for America's sons. So there is kind of the summary that they have given you. Yeah, there you go. I will say, well, I'll get into that in just a minute. Here's my summary as I wrote this down. My summary is pretty quick. I try to do it in like 150 words, 200 more words max, so not very much. But here's my summary. A thief has stolen the ambition of boys, leaving them struggling in school and men struggling to find purpose. This book identifies 5 specific reasons why, and more importantly, how each one can be reversed. The result is restoring boys to be boys and men to become men. And I've made this note. Why should you read this book? Well, if you want to be convinced of the problem that's going on with boys and men in our culture, in our country, you need to read this book. It's not going to tell you everything, obviously. It's limited, but it's going to give you some good ideas. And as you read it or as you listen to this episode, you might find yourself, or you might be thinking, "Hey, that's me. That experience is what I've experienced." So it may resonate with you personally. So that's just kind of the big picture there of the book. Here's the first impressions of the book's cover. So if you care about these things, this thing it's kind of feels like a mass-produced book. This is real flimsy. The papers, those kind of seems like that recycled paper. And so personally, I just don't like books like that, but it's neither here. It has nothing to do with the actual book, but I just don't like the way it feels that great. But there you go. It was published in 2016. So when it says they were a mere 20 years ago, that was from 2016. So 1996. Now we're in 2026. So it's 10 years old. So there's some changes that have happened, but I'm sure it's not a ton of changes. There's 274 pages. There's 8 chapters. The font's not really huge. It's not too small either. So it's just an average font. And there you go. That's kind of the first impression of the book. The cover, the picture's all right, I guess. There's a lot on the author here. He's a family physician, psychologist. He's authored several other books. I think another one, I haven't read it yet, but there's another one that'll come up on this episode, on a different episode in the future. But he is not a Christian from what I could tell. I didn't do a research on it either, but I will say that's important from his worldview. But I mean, he's on CBS, Fox, NPR, so he's pretty famous apparently. I didn't look into all that. I'm not going to. I don't have the time to do all that. But it's a New York Times best-selling author of Collapse of Parenting. So there's your first impressions. There's your big overview. Now let's go a little bit deeper. Again, this isn't for all boys. This isn't like saying all boys are struggling, all boys are having these issues, but many boys are. And so what does this say about many boys? Number one, why are boys struggling with motivation at school? You ever notice that? Maybe that was you. It seems that boys have tuned out. In the very beginning chapters, he talks about his experience of just talking to tons and tons of parents at these events where he was giving speeches and answering questions. And he just says a lot of them are asking these questions of, how do I motivate my son? It just seems like he's not motivated to do anything. And so then he goes on to give 5 answers to that question of why are they not motivated? Why are they not growing up? That's kind of chapters 2 through 7, answering the why. And he just said it down here, but I'll say it in my way, the way I put it. Number 1, there's changes in schools that kids now are required to sit down and learn to read at a much earlier age than they used to. Again, I'm not going to go into all the history and back all these things up or not. I'm just telling you what the book is about. But we know some of that is partially true, at least for the last several years. And one of the things he says in here is that at age 7, that's really probably the better age for boys. He's specifically talking about boys here, for boys and how their brains work, for them to start reading. And when they read at age 5, like some of these schools have, again, this isn't every boy, but this is what they found for a majority of boys, that they just find it hard to sit and to read, because boys are boys. They most boys, they just want to go outside and run and throw sticks and throw rocks and play. And that's his argument. One of his arguments is, when we cause boys to sit down earlier, they tune out of all this stuff because they're not interested. And we started something way too early. So, yeah, school changes. Secondly, video games, that we have boys playing an excess amount of video games, which reduces their real world goals. So if you imagine, I don't know, I don't want to call out any games, but let's just call it just any game that you play, and there's a reward for winning. If you win first place, third place, whatever, there's a reward for winning, and it feels good. I don't know if we want to call those endorphins. I don't think he mentioned that in there, but there's just this reward, immediate reward for doing these things. But then you go out there and say you have to learn a sentence, or you have to learn your ABCs, and it's just like, okay, like the rewards are totally different. And so in the virtual world, the video game world, boys are much more in tune to want to do things, versus now then they come to the real world and they're thinking, this is not near as fun as video games. Virtual achievements is overshadowing real life achievement, is the way that I put it. So video games, we could continue to talk about it, but I don't want to make this a long book exploration. I just want to jump on some of the things in which he said. You can read the book. That's what it's for. Thirdly, medication for ADHD, which, again, some of it can be misdiagnosed. I'm not a physician. I don't know. I'm just saying some of the stuff that they wrote in here, that some boys don't need to be on ADHD. And if they do, they can try a healthier alternative medication that would help them not be so, like doled out, much more dull. So again, the lack of vigor, the lack of wanting to do these sorts of things, part of that is the ADHD medication, is what, according to this book, according to him, is why boys are adrift. Fourthly, endocrine disruptors. That is, I don't have any around here. I guess that's a good thing. So that is, they've done this study. I actually saw a documentary on this in, I think it was New York, where they were taking, what is that called? The pregnancy pill to not get pregnant. Anyways, one of those, birth control. There we go. So they had been taking this certain birth control, and anyways, they're flushing it through the toilet. As it comes out of your urine, it goes through the toilet. Well, in the process of cleaning that water, and how they use that water in the city, and it goes out into the rivers, that those whatever it is are so small that it was getting into the rivers, and the frogs were actually, their body parts were changing and stuff because of this. Now, again, this is one of the documentaries I saw, and I don't know how true that is. I'm just telling you, it matches kind of what he said. He goes in to talk about these disruptors that affect our hormone levels is the main thing. So when you drink from plastic bottle, especially the specific thin bottles, that some of that plastic leaches into your water. When you drink that, it affects your hormones. We know this with any type of chemical. What's fascinating to me is my grandma told me this in the 90s, probably like 1995, 98. I don't know. I just aged myself, right? Have you seen some of those memes or not the memes, I don't know what they are, reels, where they come in, they say, hey, wait, what year were you born? 19, Jurassic Park. You're an ancient person. I am ancient. That's a good thing. I like it better that way. No, kidding aside, my grandma did tell me this in the 90s, that when the water was hot, specifically when it was hot in the car, She said she wouldn't let me drink it. She said because the plastic. I don't know where she got this information from, but she was ahead of her times. I'm telling you, a lot of the stuff that we do today, she was 20, 30 years ahead of all these sorts of things. So the environmental toxins is another factor in messing with boys' hormones that cause them to go adrift. That's one of the chapters. Another chapter, male leadership void. Specifically here, he talks about how other cultures, like Eastern cultures, can move here to the West, America, and that if they will keep their culture, their boys are much better off than our boys here in the West, because we lack male leadership here in our country. That's one of the reasons that this podcast exists, because I've realized, we're always getting taught, or especially at church, we're being taught, and I'm teaching people to be good dads, but we rarely teach people how to be good dads. But we've lacked that leadership. We've lacked a model. We've lacked an example of what a dad looks like. And on this podcast, what you've seen is there is no perfect dads. There is no doctor dad, like a PhD dad. We're just dad with experiences, some good experiences, some bad experiences. But when we share those experiences with each other, we help one another grow to be better dads for the Lord, and so that our children will be pointed to Christ. Male leadership is a significant factor in why boys are just adrift, why they're not growing up, why men are continuing to act like boys. So he talks a little bit about that. Again, the result is guys being unmotivated to get jobs and move on into adulthood. So then chapter 8 comes, and he kind of summarizes those 5 points, and then he gives you counteraction solutions. So with the schools, he says, know what's happening in your school and send your boys to the good schools if you can. I don't know how that works with where you're at, but in other words, just be informed, know what's going on, know what they're teaching, know how they're teaching, and see if that's the best school for your child. Secondly, minimize gaming. Obviously, the video games. I don't want to make this too long. I don't want to talk on each one. Maybe I can do a follow-up on kind of these 5 factors in another episode, but minimize gaming. He says minimize medications or find the alternatives. Avoid bad plastics. So use the plastics that aren't going to leach bad material or bad chemicals into your drinks or food. And then finally, he says find healthy male leaders. So I don't know, maybe this will help for you to find healthy male leaders that maybe I can be one of those as I seek to become more healthy and you seek to become more healthy, that we both become more healthy. So here's the strength that I have found for this. This book here is very informative on revealing the problem. This is the problem, and here are at least five factors on why it is a problem. And he just nails down what's going on in our culture with boys. So I think that was one of the benefits of this book. And if you read it, it could help you in that way. One of the challenges, I always want to challenge too, and maybe give it a little bit of criticism or at least some of my concerns, is again, he has no teaching on a biblical worldview. It's not a book. It's not a Christian book. And so as men who love the Lord, we always want to view things through the lens of the gospel, the lens of the Bible. And we just need to keep that in mind when you're reading this. He says something in there about stay-at-home dads, and I'm not going to get on that topic today, obviously for time's sake, but that might be a challenge on why is that acceptable. And again, it's good. He views things differently, but from a Christian worldview, that's a whole discussion in and of itself. I'm not going to get into it. So let me get into some quotes, and then we'll move into the golden chapter. There's a lot. Number one, I just say the stats that he uses. Stats can be bent. People use them in all sorts of ways. And so, just keep that in mind as you're reading this book. So here we go. I got several quotes I probably want to read to you. Hopefully you stay in here. If you're just tuning in, you skipped ahead. Here we go. So it's not just Maryland or Pennsylvania either. As you and I review what's known about this problem, we will see that the problem of boys disengaging from school and from the American dream is widespread. It affects every variety of community, urban, suburban, and rural, white, black, Asian, and Hispanics, affluent, middle income, and low income. He goes on to say, what's troubling about so many of the boys I see in the office or the boys I hear about from parents and teachers is that they don't have much passion for any real world activity. So he's just laying out the problem there. Oh man, I lost a Post-it note. I'll explain the Post-it note here in a minute. I think it was this. So Finland, or at this point in 2016 at least, he says the United States ranks number 24 in reading. Finland ranks number 10. This isn't a direct quote. This is kind of skipping parts, but then he says this, direct quote. What's special about public education in Finland? Here's one interesting feature. Children in Finland don't begin any formal schooling until they are 7 years old. Nevertheless, by the time they're teenagers, Finnish children are beating American children by large margins on the same test. So just that extended time of letting your boys be boys and then letting them grow into reading at a later age. He goes on to say, I think the case of Finland has special value for us. How could starting kids in the school at age 7, 2 years later than we do, lead to superior performance when those children become teenagers? Simple. If kids start school 2 years later and are taught material when they are developmentally ready to learn, kids are less likely to hate school. If kids don't hate school, it's easier to get them to learn. If kids do hate school, as many American boys do, then the teacher is starting out at a major disadvantage before even stepping in to the classroom. I lost my notes here. I'm going to explain that at the end of why that was there, but I had a note on here. Yeah. I don't know what happened to it, so let me skip ahead. All right. That's what happened to it. It says 28 on my notes. It's actually page 38. So 38. Boys are at least twice as likely to be treated for ADHD compared with girls. And the rate of diagnosis of ADHD for both girls and boys have soared over the past 3 decades. If you ask a boy to read about the life cycle of a tadpole metamorphosing into a frog, but that boy has never touched a frog, never had the experience of jumping around in a pond in his bare feet chasing after a tadpole, he may not see the point. So just the real life experience before they actually start learning. It's a robust finding. Regardless of race or ethnicity, if you come from a low-income household, your score on the writing exam drops 15 to 17 points compared to students of the same race, ethnicity who come from a more affluent household. So part of the reason reading in response to reading is low is if you're from a low household income, the stats say that your testing is just lower. Obviously, the assumption there is you don't have the support system at home because they're working or whatever. And there you go. That's good enough. Talking about Call of Duty, Grand Theft Auto, such video games offer a quick and easy fix for these boys. They give them the feelings of power and control they crave, the power of life and death. It's just a game, quote. But watch the seriousness with which these boys play. What happens when you tell your son that he should stop playing those video games? You tell him that he spends all his time playing video games, he is less likely to be successful in the real world, less likely to find true happiness. He says he doesn't care about being happy. You tell him he needs to grow up, put the games aside, and get a real life. He may reply, quoting Nietzsche, but not aware of that he is quoting Nietzsche. This is what I am. This is what I want. You can go to hell. Boys should not be responding that way to parents. I'm just letting you know. Number 80, or page 80. Not surprisingly, Researchers find that the more time you spend playing video games, the more likely you are to develop difficulties maintaining sustained concentration on a single item. In another study, teens who were playing risky racing video games at age 17 and 18 were more than 3 times as likely 5 years later to have been involved in an actual car crash compared with teens who did not play such games. That's crazy, right? But it makes sense if you're playing video games of racing and just you're excited about it. Then when you get into the real world and you get your real car, you're going to attempt to do that. I guess it's just the nature of influence. So there you go. I have cited considerable research on violent video games, and there is now evidence that violent video games such as Grand Theft Auto and Call of Duty have effects that are qualitatively, I can't even say that word today, qualitatively different from non-violent games such as Zuma and Tetris. I don't even know what Zuma is. But it says this: young people who play violent video games change their brains, becoming desensitized to violence in ways not seen in young people who play non-violent video games. Again, it's kind of like Simon Says, we just do what we see. The video game world is more real to them than the world of homework and sports and friends. Lots of discussion there. There is no law prohibiting. Oh, this is interesting. I don't know if it's changed since then. It might have, but he says because this ruling by Justice Scalia, I think it got overturned in California. But this legal ruling says there is no law prohibiting any child from buying any video game, no matter how violent or vicious the game may encourage the player to be. There cannot be such a law, not in the United States, as a result of the Supreme Court's ruling. So he goes on to say, no one else can do this job for you. You must know what games your child is playing. I agree. That is a great line. And that is crazy that if true, that kids can just buy whatever video game. That's what he says according to that law. All right, American boys, we're now talking about ADHD. American boys in 2013 were roughly 10 times more likely to be diagnosed with ADHD compared with American boys in 1979. So there's lots of reasons why that could be or not could be, but that's what he says. And he has obviously a quote on there of where he got that from. This is endocrine disruptors. The fact that American river water now contains a substance or substances that can emasculate males puts the story in a new light. But at least those impotent young men aren't making eggs. So just the change of the physical body, the hormones, cells, all that. He's talking about plastic now. BPA, like the phthalates? Should have looked that up, huh? Mimics the action of female hormones. But another worrisome finding has been detected as well. A team of researchers at the University of Cincinnati found that the low levels of BPA that leach into milk or formula from such bottles irreversibly disrupt brain development in laboratory animals. And the effects of the brain are not confined only or even primarily to areas involved in reproduction, sexuality. Instead, brain areas involved in memory and motivation are damaged. Again, I could just talk about every single one of these. I'm not going to. I'm just reading these so you get a gist of the book. There is now good evidence that endocrine disrupting chemicals in the environment may diminish bone density and distort bone architecture, causing bones to become more brittle. So just a note here. Remember, it's not from a Christian worldview, but he's bringing some good statistics, some interesting markers here. It used to be unusual to find a man between the age of 25 and 34 who had never been married In 1970, only about 1 in 6 American men aged 25 to 34 had never been married. But in 2010, 52% of American men aged 25 to 34, more than half, had never been married. There's a little quote there too, or a footnote. Yeah, so I'm just throwing these out there for you to, maybe it'll pique your interest on this book. I'm almost done. Got a few more here I want to share with you. There's a lot here just because there was some stats, but he says, or LaRoque said, a boy does not naturally grow up to be a gentleman. So he's talking about male influence now. You need a community of men showing boys how to behave, and that's what we provide here. He's talking about this school that they have. I'm just going to tell you that. That's why the church exists, the local church, not so you just show up on a Sunday and jump out on a Sunday, that you can be among other men to help you as a father, that if you're married, that they can be around other women to help them as mothers, that the children have other guys and other influential men in their life that they see. 2:11. As in other cultures, there was an awareness that boys must be led to manhood. It's important that we lead these boys. This is where he said in 2:15, the evidence is now overwhelming that the new immigrant family should try to hold on to their native language and their native culture and shield their children from contemporary American culture as best they can. Because if not, they're going to fall into our culture. That's just sad for us. But Christians, we have our own culture, and we need to rise up to that, man. And I'm not saying that arrogantly, like I've got it all. I don't. Why did I read this book? Primarily for myself, and I'm just putting it on here to leverage the opportunity. If I've read it, might as well share a little bit about it, and maybe you could use it. So 2:21, 50 years ago, if a boy were told to grow up, he knew what it meant. It meant acting like the characters portrayed by McMurray and Young in My Three Sons and Father Knows Best, or by Gary Cooper in High Noon, or by Jimmy Stewart in It's a Wonderful Life, or by Sidney Poitier in The Heat of the Night. He obviously dated himself there because those are some old movies, but it doesn't. The illustration still stands that there were strong male leadership in movies, in radio, all those sorts of things that you could look to and say, okay, that's what a guy looks like, a man. But if you ask a boy today to grow up, what does that mean? Who's he supposed to act like? Homer Simpson? Akon, Eminem, Lil Wayne, Justin Timberlake, Justin Bieber? What does it mean to be a man today, a mature adult man? Yeah. The Homer Simpson one is more, well, I guess they all could work, but Homer Simpson is like, he's a goofball, right? He's pretty much an idiot on, what was that other one? Oh, geez, I can't remember the other one that came on Fox also right after Simpson or right before Simpson. But all the guys are just dumb. Family Guy, just dumb guys today. Versus some of the movies or things that you get mature guys that are taking care of their family, trying to raise up their children, trying to give them good lives, versus just messing around. I don't know. I'm not going to say anything about those other people. I'm just talking out loud there. Just a few more. Coming to the end of the book. If you don't provide a boy with healthy role models, he may choose the unhealthy role models offered by the marketplace, from hip-hop or television or movies on the internet or social media or video games. He keeps throwing hip-hop in there too. I'm like, I get what he's saying, but I think he's probably a little biased by what I'm picking up of certain hip-hop people. He just doesn't like that style. I mean, you could have said anything, pop music or blues music. It doesn't matter if they're not living according. But I guess I would ask also, what is his view of a man? Since I didn't see nothing in there from a Christian character. If there's no Christian standard, then it's subjective to what a man is. But if we have the Christian standard, and we do, then we know what the standard is. 2 more. We assume that teenage boys know how to use a hammer to get nails out of an old piece of wood. How should a boy know if he has never been taught, if he has never seen a man use a hammer for that purpose? Everyone, if you listen to episode 0, I think it's 0, I talk about tying a shoe. That's exactly what I'm talking about. Is we go to church, we hear guys telling us to be good dads, be good dads, be good dads. And it's like, wait, we don't know how to be a good dad. No one's ever taught us how to be a good dad. It's like you go to school and they say, you make sure you build houses, build houses, build houses. And we're like, okay, we can build house, but we don't even know what tools to use. What tools are there? We have to be taught. Someone has to teach us these things. Final quote. We have a lot of work to do. No one person is going to be able to do this alone. We parents have to work together. So please, let's get in. Well, that's the other part. Doesn't matter. I would say this. We have a lot of work to do. And I realize that. And I don't want to just work for myself. I want to work for you and help you. If something on this episode's been helpful, I praise God for that. And if it hasn't, I apologize and confess to God for that if it's been ungodly, that you'd forgive me for that. But here we are, just iron sharpening iron. A golden chapter. If you had to read one chapter, chapter 8 is the chapter to read because it gives you all 5 factors of why boys are being adrift, but then it also gives you the antidote to those, or the advice, the application on how to apply that. So chapter 8 is the golden chapter. Here's my conclusion. We have a problem with raising boys into men. We need to be intentional in these 5 areas to help counter the lack of motivation and help raise our boys into men God wants them to be. So brothers, friends, you've heard quite a bit about this book, exploring this book. It may be something that you want to pick up. It may not be. But I hope this has been beneficial to you. Now, let me give you a little bit of, I don't know what the right word is. I'm going to come up with it some other time, okay? But for now, here's what we have. I'm going to give away this book. This is the book that I read. One of the reasons that I go through, if you see my other books, I have like underlines and highlights, all sorts of stuff. But what I did with these books, I don't know if you can see that because I can't see myself, but is I put these little sticky notes in here for the quotes. The reason I did that, here's the only thing. I got a little bend here, but that's it. Other than that, it looks it's basically new. So what I'm going to do with this, and I'm going to try to do this unless it's a book that I just need to keep forever, which I'm trying to get rid of books, so that's not the case. What I'm going to do with this is, if you know me personally, you can just personal message me or send me a social media message. If not, you can just message at the Practical Dad Podcast. I don't even know my email anymore. It's on there somewhere. Go listen. But you can find me somewhere. The first person who messages me will get this book free. I'll just send it to you through the mail. That's my gift to you. And as we continue to look at books and explore books, I'm going to continue to do the same thing. Just put highlights in there and then let this be a gift for one of you to read it. But here's the thing. It has to be an honor system. If you take it, you got to read it. You have to read it. Don't just grab the book and put it on the shelf. I don't care if it takes you 2 years. Just read 1 page at a time. Challenge yourself and encourage yourself. But, honestly, the Bible's the best book to read. Start there, number 1. And if you struggle to read, this one has a lot of stories. You might like that. It's kind of science-y with stats and stuff. So this may not be the best first book for you. But if you do want this book, if you're going to use it to read, don't think, oh, someone else could use it. No, just message me. I'll send it to you. All right, so that's the conclusion of our Boys Adrift. Overall, I don't remember if I did this last time. I don't think I did. I gave it a 5-star or whatever. I'll just say it's beneficial, it's helpful, it's useful. Eat the fish, spit out the bones is what my pastor always said, which just simply means take the good stuff that helps you and then just ignore the rest. Don't worry about the rest, all right? Thanks for tuning in to today's podcast episode. Hope you'll stay with us, subscribe, like, whatever you need to do to hear future episodes. If you have a book that you want to hear from me or hear me explore, then maybe comment or send an email. But other than that, may the Lord bless you. See ya.